Hola, this is a presentation about globalizing Latin American beauty. So this article is originally written by Jeffrey Jones. Jeffrey Jones is a British-born business historian who became a US citizen in 2010. He is currently Isidore Starr's Professor of Business History at the Harvard Business School. So according to the article that Jones wrote, he states that he was stunned by the countless posters and billboards advertising beauty accessible to all, which states that also beauty is a big business. According to the industry database Euromonitor, Brazil is now the fourth biggest market of beauty products in the world after the United States, China, and Japan. Mexico was ranked 7th and Argentina 16th. Even more telling is per capita spending. Brazilian spending on beauty products is $148 on an average for each Brazilian, which is the highest amount in Latin America. That of Argentina and Chile is just a few dollars less. Although individual Americans and Europeans spend more, Latin Americans stand out more emerging markets as spenders on beauty. Thais, Southern Africans, and Russians spend well under half the amount of Argentines and Brazilians and Chileans altogether. Chinese spend 3/4 less, and Indians spend less than 1% that people do in these three Latin American countries. So it's not just the lipstick, fragrance, and other cosmetic products. Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, and Argentina regularly feature in the top 10 countries for cosmetic plastic surgery, alongside stalwarts such as the United States and South Korea. Brazil, which offers tax reduction for such surgery, is a world leader in breast implants and liposuction too. Latin Americans are associated with a range of beauty enhancements from the Brazilian wax to the genes colombianos. In the popular media, the apparent Latin American fascination with beauty is regularly ascribed to culture. Latin sensuousness, cults of body worship in tropical climates, and Massimo expectations about female appearances are regularly mentioned. The conservative and religious nature of much of Latin American society rarely ever gets a mention. However, history points to a more complex and contingent explanation that Latin America was not the home of modern beauty industry actually, nor for plastic surgery initially. As the author explained in his book, which is known as The History of the Global Beauty Industry, he also states in that book that beauty imagined every known human society in history has used beauty products. Human preferences for adornment and cosmetics were in part shaped by religious belief. Throughout history, beauty products were made in people's homes or in small batches by craftsmen. Most people had neither the time nor the money to devote to beauty. Beauty was also a local matter, so when it comes to standards of beauty, it varied enormously among geographies as well as over time. Beauty became a business in the 19th century, so it was really recent. It wasn't that case initially. Anyways, so going back to the article, the author also states that skin creams, cosmetics, and perfume began to be made in factories. Chemistry replaced natural ingredients, and advances in understanding the chemistry of scent enabled the creation of synthetic fragrances, transforming the ancient perfume industry in the process. Entrepreneurs created brands, they came up with attractive packaging, and they secured endorsements from celebrities. Emotional associations were built around products which had once been functional. Brands offered literally hope in a jar. Just as you can see in this picture, it's literally a jar with cream in it that says literally hope in a jar. Anyways, going back to the article. The modern industry was born in the rich, industrialized world of Western Europe and the United States. Beauty became associated with Western appearances, with Paris and New York as aspirational global beauty capitals. The features of white people were hailed as global standards of beauty, and others were considered ugly. In the United States, where beauty contests like Miss America started in the interwar years, African Americans, among other ethnicities like Jews, were excluded of it. Beauty was also gendered, reflecting hardening gender identities in the 19th century. Beauty products became associated with women rather than men, which was never really the case historically, but it still is the case until now. It still is an issue. The modern beauty industry, along with its underlying ideological assumptions, was brought to Latin America by European and US firms. In most of Latin America, however, low incomes and prevailing ethics meant that toilet soap and toothpaste, not color cosmetics, were the first products the US and European firms introduced to Latin America. In Brazil, women seldom read newspapers, which was the traditional medium used elsewhere by Unilever for advertising, so the firm switched to a more popular medium, which is radios. Latin American women were enticed with the opportunity to emulate the latest beauty fashions of the United States and Europe. American and European models were used in advertisements by the big cosmetics companies such as Max Factor. However, as Julio Monero from the University of San Francisco has shown, that Pond's cream was advertised using Mexican celebrities during the 1930s, while Colgate-Palmolive, Unilever's US twin, featured famous Mexican singers such as the Aguilar sisters on its weekly radio program. Revlon opened its first foreign factory in Mexico in 1948. The German hair care company Wella started manufacturing in Chile in 1952, Brazil in 1954, Argentina in 1957, and in Mexico in 1961. The most important corporate actor was Avon, however, the company which pioneered direct selling of cosmetics in the United States. In 1954, Avon, whose only previous international corporation has been in Canada, opened a new manufacturing business in Puerto Rico. Over the following decade, manufacturing and selling operations were started in Venezuela, Cuba, Mexico, and Brazil. Direct selling was perfect for Latin America. In most countries, there were only a few department stores and only fragmented retail channels. Direct selling by sales representatives enabled Avon to reach women in their workplaces and even to their homes. By 1960, Avon had secured strong market positions in many countries, including Venezuela, where it also controlled half the cosmetics markets in there. Even today, nearly one-third of all beauty sales in Latin America are made through direct sales, compared to 5% in Western Europe and less than 10% in North America. An estimated 80% of lipstick sales in Brazil are made by direct selling. Avon was enormously skilled at enticing people to buy cosmetics. When it entered a new market, it began with acquainting representatives and customers with the Avon line. It provided representatives with the desirable products at good prices, so providing them with an attractive earning opportunity. It tailored its strategy to local circumstances. It also invested heavily in cosmetics education in countries such as Venezuela, which at the time used only a few cosmetics. Avon took a lead in using ethnicities with a range of skin tones in its advertisements. In the United States, however, the firm was a pioneer in using African Americans in advertisements from 1966 onwards, though it wasn't not until 1970s that the first Afro-Latinos appeared in advertisements in Brazil. Avon did, however, recruit darker-skinned Brazilians as sales representatives much earlier. In some respects, the industry became as associated with wellness as it was with cosmetics endorsements. The levels of cosmetic plastic surgery seen today in the region may justifiably be seen as obsessive, as well as frequently dangerous, because of the large informal and legal component of that industry, but the origins were more benign. Quite a number of the locally owned cosmetics firms which began to appear in the region had an early and persistent commitment to sustainability, health, and societal concerns. An early example was in Colombia. La Barbe Laboratories was founded in 1971 by George Piñores Corpas, a prominent Colombian doctor and scientist who initially sought to make more affordable medicines for the poorer sections of the society using plants and traditional practices, sourcing ingredients from the peoples of the Amazon. The company soon diversified into cosmetics and had multiple innovations, including developing a natural Botox from the extract of the acamella plant. So we see a lot of racial issues in this article and what it had led to. So racial issues go way back in Latin America, and it has a connection to culture. So the article basically states that white people are better and are thought of as more beautiful, even perfect, but culturally speaking, we say that white people were better than the indigenous, which are close. So when it comes to the concept of race, the concept of race emerged culturally with the European expansion, even historically. or the European encounter. The idea of pure bloodlines was linked to the European concept of honor, and we'll see that when we come to the picture of the colonial hierarchy or the Spanish Latin American social structure. Anyways, going back to the connection to culture, the idea of pure bloodlines was linked to the European concept of honor, as I mentioned, and honor was used to explain colonial hierarchies. As I said, for each group, the colonial legal order established different advantages, duties, and legal sanctions, ranging from acceptable clothes to access to educational institutions, appropriate jobs, taxes, and specific criminal punishments too. Over generations, categories tended to collapse into mestizo and mulatto, which we'll see also when I mention the casta painting. So then we have the Spanish Latin American local structure, or which is also known as the social structure. So we see at the very top of the hierarchy we have the peninsulares, Creoles, mestizos, and mulattoes. So the higher you are on this hierarchy, which means that the purer your bloodline is. And at the very end we have the Native Americans at the very bottom of this hierarchy. So they are even under the enslaved Africans. So you can imagine that. So the article also states that the media is used for the sake of marketing, just as in the case of Unilever and Avon, which also means that the media has a strong effect on society, and there's a research that has been done locally in Kuwait actually to prove so. So the research was done in the American University of Kuwait by its students to explain how the media has a long history of influencing public perception. One way that mediated messages negatively influence an audience is through perpetuating unrealistic body ideals. Kuwait has undergone an invasion of Western media, including television, music, periodicals, and movies, even on Netflix, in the last 25 years. The students decided to look on the cultural imperialism's consequences, which is a huge word, to determine if the prevalence of imported Western body ideals was having a negative influence, in fact, on the individuals. Individuals judge themselves through comparison, even with media pictures, according to the social comparison theory. The study compares the impact of college-aged young adults watching shows with major slim television characters to shows with prominent typical body types in the cast to see how Western, primarily the U.S., media imperialism and the social comparison theory through the media influences body perception. The students expected to detect a link between body dissatisfaction and exposure to programs with only thin or slim characters. The students discovered that body image dissatisfaction is being reported, implying that media imperialism in Kuwait is in fact destroying the Arab body image. So the method the students used was first they distributed around 286 surveys to discover what they were the most popular shows that were being watched by both the male and female college students between the age of 18 to 25-year-olds. The students additionally conducted their study by distributing a list of TV shows to 4 college-age students, 2 males and 2 females, to see if the dominant characters fell correctly into skinny and average body types for both Arabic and English language TV shows. They used a scale that is about 1 to 7, where 1 meant not at all, matching the categorized body type, and 7 meaning fitting the body type category or a lot. The results led to a hypothesis that show that the more respondents that watch TV shows will lead to greater appearance evaluation. Now, when it comes to comparable effects to the TV shows on body dissatisfaction, the studies found that in Western studies, which will be observed in our study right now, that watching TV shows with skinny characters will lead to greater body dissatisfaction. Female respondents will report greater body dissatisfaction than male respondents. Respondents viewing shows with average body types will report less body dissatisfaction than those watching shows with skinny characters. So to conclude, I just found these quotes that were said or told or quoted by famous people, and that only tells us that even famous people have insecurities and that no one is really perfect. So we don't really have to shame each other and all of that. It's just pointless, it's just useless. And the whole idea of race, we all know that, well, it exists. The issues of race still exists, but we need to make the world a better place. So moving on. So Jessica Ortner says you can't hate yourself happy, you can't criticize yourself thin, you can't shame yourself worthy. Real change begins with self-love and self-care. Taylor Swift says, I definitely have body issues, but everybody does. When you come to the realization that everybody does, even the people that I consider flawless, then you can start to live with the way you are. Ashley Graham says, your words have so much power. Every day if you tell yourself I love you, if you give yourself one word of validation, it will change your mind. So what I'd like to say is, don't believe in all that the media shows. Don't be influenced by it. It's obviously all fake. It's all just acting. It's all just photoshopped. So instead, believe in yourself, and that shall show you your true beauty and your true power. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I have created it.